To Save a Forest by Alex Case, Grayson Grayley, Keitha Lear, and Rebecca Perry. There once was a curious little girl named Audrey. Every day, when she got home from school, she would run straight into the woods of which she had dreamed about all day in class. Audrey had always seen the woods as a happy place, ever since her family had their first picnic by a patch of wildflowers. It was one of her earliest memories. She darted for that favorite spot next to the flowers, waiting for her animal friends to show up. Willow the wood thrush would always show up first and say, "Hey Audrey, how was school?" Audrey would roll her eyes and say, "Same old, same old." Al the white-tailed deer and Trixa the tiger salamander would show up next and ask, "Do you want to play by the creek again?" "Let's wait for Sheldon," Audrey would reply. Sheldon the box turtle eventually would mosey on up with a sad look on his face. "Come on, Grumpy," Audrey would say. Then she would pick him up and head for the creek. Most days, Audrey and her friends would hang out by the creek and watch Trixa race down the river on a leaf with Willow watching from a branch above to keep her safe. If it was raining, they would sit under a shelter Audrey had made and talk and laugh together. They would make shadows with Audrey's flashlight and a white sheet. On warm nights, her parents would allow her to sit outside and count shooting stars, wishing upon every one that they saw. When fall rolled in, they would all work together to build a huge leaf pile and see who could make the biggest splash. But one day, when Audrey got home, she could tell that something was wrong. Willow flew right up to her, closer to the bus stop than usual. "Audrey," she said, "someone has been clearing all the trees on the other side of the woods." Right on cue, there was a big crash as a tree on the neighbor's property fell. What Audrey didn't know yet was Sheldon and his new family were enjoying some time basking in the sun when they heard the noise. "What was that?" Sheldon's wife asked. "That's a chainsaw," said Sheldon, "and it's coming this way." Before Sheldon could protect his family, the tree fell on top of his eggs and wife. Now Audrey and the other forest friends were all that he had. Trixa and her family were sitting out sunning themselves on a nice day near the creek when suddenly there was a big crunch and everything went black. After digging and digging, she finally saw sunlight. "Mom? Dad?" she yelled as she looked around. Everything was covered in dirt, and her family could not be found. Willow worried about the safety of her precious eggs when she had to leave the nest. The opening made the eggs more vulnerable. Something was peculiar about Willow's babies when they hatched. One bird seemed far larger than the others and seemed to be hogging all of the food. It wasn't a wood thrush at all. It was a cowbird. His mother must have found Willow's nest due to the opening. Al was hungry, but didn't want to complain. He knew his mom couldn't get out to get food. Worrying for her son's grumbly tummy, she decided to bravely Al, "Stay here and don't move, no matter what." But Mommy," Al said worriedly. "Just stay. I'll be right back," she assured him. Ael curled up among the trees. He had started to drift off when he was startled awake by an unfamiliar crack that rumbled throughout the forest. "Don't move, no matter what," he heard his mom say again. So he curled back up as tight as he could, but something inside him felt heavy, and he didn't know why. Disheartened, Ael, Willow, Trixa, and Sheldon all turned to Audrey for answers. Audrey was stumped. She thought and thought and thought. "I have an idea of how to fix the opening," Audrey exclaimed. "I'll make trees out of cardboard." "That's a great idea," Willow fluttered. "It's worth a shot," said Ael. "I don't know, Audrey," Sheldon questioned. Just before Sheldon could make another comment, Audrey ran to her house to get supplies. After spending hours making a couple of trees, Audrey looked at her work. "These look great!" Trixa shouted. Audrey placed her trees in various spots. Willow tried to build a nest, but it kept sliding off. A wind gust blew, and one tree landed in the water, destroying it. "What am I going to do now?" Audrey screamed out. At the dinner table that night, Audrey's mother could tell something was upsetting her. "How was your day at school, honey?" she prodded. "Fine," Audrey sighed as she pushed her peas around her plate. Audrey noticed her parents exchange one of those looks. "Fine. School is fine, but the forest is not. The Foster's logging is causing all of my friends to struggle, and I'm just a little girl who can't do anything to help." She shoved back her chair, threw down her napkin, and left the table with a clatter of her fork. A knock came at Audrey's door. "Sweetie, can I come in?" Audrey muffled a consenting reply. "I thought I should tell you that the Fosters are logging to create a camp in Evangeline's memory. Maybe you should talk to them." Audrey turned and saw the photo of her and her best friend sitting on her nightstand, and she felt a sinking feeling in her stomach as she swallowed back tears. She had to talk to her friends. The next morning, she wandered into the woods and found them. "The reason the neighbors are cutting down trees is to build a camp for Evangeline," said Audrey. "What are we going to do?" asked Sheldon. "I don't know," Audrey sighed as she fell to her knees. "You have to talk to them," said Trixa softly. "Audrey, I know you're scared, but if something isn't done, we might have to leave," said Willow. "We really don't want to. We like it here," said Ael. "I can't lose you too," groaned Sheldon. "Come on, we can do this," said Trixa. "It is always easier to be brave together." As they approached the Fosters' door, Audrey suddenly stopped. "I can't do it," she said. "Let's just go home." "Hold on, I've got an idea," Willa said. She directed the animals to climb on each other and reach the doorbell. Sheldon, at the top, stretched out his neck to touch the bell. Ding dong! The door creaked open. "I found this," Audrey said nervously. This was a week before Audrey passed away. The neighbors wept. "We had no idea. She had so many animal friends. She spent so much time." We miss Evangeline, but because of the opening, our lives are being put in danger any time we are in search of food, trying to find shelter, and attempting to raise our young," Willow said. "What were we thinking?" the Fosters said. "Our daughter would have never wanted to hurt these animals. We have to do something quick." Audrey and the Fosters burst out the door to stop the loggers. "Stop!" they screamed. Just before the workers chopped the next tree down, they looked to see what was going on. Once the neighbors told the workers to stop, they packed up their things and left. The Fosters and their friends all worked together to restore the forest with native plants and dedicated their land as a nature preserve called Evangeline's Place, where all of the forest friends could live happily ever after. The end.